All right, so we are at West Side Bowl in Youngstown, Ohio, and we just finished sound check with Spirit of the Bear, and we have this cool new toy today, the Neve 5045 Primary Source Enhancer. So I'm using this today on James, the lead singer's vocal, and Jamie, the drummer's vocal. So right now, on James's vocal right here, we are using the B time constant setting. And minus 18 dB threshold, and we are about halfway up on the depth. On Jamie, we are also using, we're using A on, we're using B. We're using B on Jamie. Also, the faster sounds seem to be a lot better. And pretty much the same setting here on him, minus 18, and then we're also using about minus 10 on the depth. So, my first impressions with doing this, I did not do my normal stand in front of the PA system with a vocal microphone and put steep notches in. So my first impressions with this is you can have a lot more high end in your mix, especially if you EQ aggressively like I do. So I'm gonna pan over to Jamie here for a hot second, and he can tell you what his in-ears sound like. All right, so James, sound check. What's your first impressions? Did you even notice that there was a fancy schmancy box there?
No, I did. I actually did, because normally when I go to sing, it's all I hear is my cymbals, and I kind of don't really have any overheads in my ears. And today I actually found myself turning them up a little bit because I wasn't hearing any cymbals.
Really?
So yeah, my voice was a lot clearer, and it felt very good. Actually, I felt very confident in this sound check.
All right, and just so that we can see kind of what we're up against here. This is an interesting venue, which is why I wanted to do the demo in this venue specifically. So this is a bowling alley, as you can see. And, I feel like this is in terms of size, this is probably a mid-size music venue. So, when you're looking at things like this, oftentimes your first instinct to bring outboard processing in is not oftentimes the first choice, and it's certainly not for me either. I certainly try to keep my rig as simple as I can, but I was really interested in the 5045 just because of what it can do. So, Jamie is a singer and a drummer. Yeah. Okay. And here's how we're taking his drums tonight. So normal mic package for us, just so you guys can get an idea about what is affecting the sound in his ears. Vocal mic is a Beta 56. We're keeping this pretty simple tonight, just because we're the headliner, and I don't want to kill this particular club in terms of stands. So I'm doing the cymbals from underneath. These are KSM 137s. There's an ATM 450 on the hi-hat. Snare and snare 2 are both 604s. Our rack tom here is a Beta 98 AMP 604 on the floor tom, and there is a 91 in the kick. So very, very standard mic package. So that is what's affecting James. Thanks, James. Sorry. So let's take a look at the PA in here. So one of the real reasons why I was intrigued by the 5045 was for situations like this. So this is Dan. This is his keyboard vocal mic. He just pushed his keyboard stack off stage because we just finished sound check. But you can see where we are in relation to the PA system. So, even if you have the old stalwart of an SM58, you are kind of on axis with the PA. And with the bands that I mix, specifically this band and the dance band in New York, I really am fighting with microphone placement. So even with specifically a music venue like this, you still have to deal with mic placement to the PA, and that affects your whole mix. The intelligibility of your lead vocal, just everything is just based on that. It's in a situation like this where we're the headliner and there are two opening bands below us or that are coming in before us, and this is a mid-sized venue in a local town that doesn't necessarily have as much horsepower or system processing. I mean, and that's not a knock, that's just the reality of dealing with club PA systems. As a guest for a house engineer, any tool that you can have in your toolkit is a big deal. It definitely is a huge help, and just going with this first gig today, the 5045 was super easy to dial in. And as a matter of fact, what I did with this is even before I did a light system tune, and then and then I didn't even ring out the PA like I normally did, and it was great. So let's talk to James and see if you could tell or what his impressions were in his ears. Okay, I'm putting James on the spot here. This is completely unrehearsed. James, tell me about your ears today. Could you notice that there was any type of mystical sorcery happening?
Yes, it sounded really good. No, yeah, I mean, it sounded a little different, I would say. Vocals sounded a bit more compressed, I think.
More compressed?
I mean, I know that this is not compressive that we're talking about.
Well, I mean, this kind of sort of is, I suppose.
Maybe a bit brighter, but not as, like, harsh.
Well, let me ask you. Okay, harsh.
Does that silk? Does it have that silk?
This one doesn't have silk.
Okay.
Maybe if we're on our best behavior, they'll send us something with silk in it. Okay, specifically, did you notice the way that the drums sound
The drums.
as far as bleed goes?
Billy, I gotta be honest with you, I got the drums turned very down in my...
Fair. Okay, bad question. Again, completely, this is unrehearsed, so you know it's real. So your vocals, any EQ things that sounded different?
Yeah, that's, I think, where I probably noticed. It was very bright, but it wasn't, like, harsh. It wasn't, there was no, like, yeah, there was none of that, like, S harshness or, like, nasally harshness that can come from just my voice being my voice.
So, all right. So I'm going to put you on the spot here for another second. So one of the reasons why I was intrigued by this particular box is just James is tall. I don't know if that comes across on camera, and he sort of points his mic up a little bit.
From the
Get that rock star
yeah,
upshot.
I do like because I do so many pedal changes during the set. I usually keep the mic like down so that when I'm changing my pedals, I can still
So
get up close to it.
that you know is an interesting thing. And then also when we're in smaller rooms like this that have the PA, I was telling the fine folks at home that's usually the angle that messes with me. So
Sure.
we keep James on a Beta 57, which helps a lot
Very directional.
in terms of his ear mix. But you know, one of the problems that we do have that many of you have seen in previous YouTube videos is that sometimes we have to EQ pretty aggressively just for the proximity of the mic. So, all right. Well, I mean, we'll see how it goes at the show tonight, eh?
Yeah, man. I mean, next time maybe a 1073 or like, or maybe bring your lexicon thing.
Neve doesn't make lexicon. This is a Neve video.
Okay.
Thanks,
Next
James.
time a 1073.
All right, so this is the moment I'm sure you guys are all interested in seeing. So on my main left-right EQ, look at that. Pretty flat. It's still sort of ringy at 8 and 10K, but other than that, it is pretty flat. So, you know, I'm sure if you've remembered from previous videos, I usually am using all of these EQ points at very narrow notches. So the fact that this is as flat as it is really saying a lot about what the 5045 is actually doing. As far as the PA left-right goes, I mean, this is a pretty standard EQ for me. I mean, again, the thing to focus on would be the high frequencies. So going back to the vocal channels here, here's Jamie. This is our drum vocal. So I am still using the low pass filter just to get the crispies out. But I mean, really, this has nothing to do with cleaning up his ear mix. This is just a tonality thing for his vocal in the room tonight. And our lead vocal, James's lead vocal, again, look how much high end we have in his mix right now. I mean, we're knocking out a little bit of 8K, but other than that, I mean, that's pretty wide open. So it really is doing a lot in terms of in terms of what we can get away with as far as taking subtractive EQ out. So I will check back in with you guys at the show, and you can tell me what you think there.
Burned a hole through every man and walked away without a spark. But this time we get alive. It's not like me to be alive. At least it's quiet enough. I'm losing sleep, I'm coming alive. But you can't make me tired 'cause I let on the run. I'm lost inside the smoke from your gun.
Well, what'd you guys think? I know it's kind of hard to tell with some cell phone videos, so just looking at that sound system last night, I tried to get two perspectives. One was in the middle of the room. So basically the way that PA was set up was there were there were 15-inch two-way cabinets splayed together on either side of the stage. And then there were subs in the middle, and there were no center fills. And that stage is probably 50 feet wide, kind of thing. So the tricky thing with that room is lots of hard surface. They kind of have that pseudo psych wall thing made out of drop ceiling tile that they painted. They recently just painted. The house engineer was telling me that they're dealing with reflection issues because they recently painted, what we're calling a psych wall black. And there are literal bowling. I don't know what you would call the physical thing that holds bowling pins, in a lane behind you, but there are those behind the stage. So gigantic bass traps that are behind the stage. And then the way that the bowling alley is actually set up is that it's wide like this, and then this back right-hand corner is where the stage is. So as far as sound goes, it's kind of all over the place. So they have a ton of sub. I mean, they probably have, I don't know, at least 4 to 6 double 18 cabinets in front of the stage. So the sub to top ratio is like, I don't know, 4 to 1 kind of thing. Like, it's really crazy. So that, and you're dealing with all of the bass issues in that room. So it is very difficult to get the low end centered. And then it's very difficult to get vocals sounding right because they sound good in front of the PA. So if you're at the console, the vocals sound great, but as soon as you go into the middle of the room, they go away. So the first video that I showed you was me just taking the iPad out for a walk, just to see what the vocal sounds like there, because right there it's all bass, because you're getting all of the power of the subs right there in the center, and all the vocals are split left and right, which, it's crazy I'm sure I'm probably not the only one that does this, but I'll admit this to you guys because we're basically family now, right? I will go on Spirit's page at the end of a show and find every cell phone video that I can to see what it sounds like around the room. And it's wild where the coverage, despite all of the issues with the PA last night, was very consistent. Vocal specifically. Now, I always mix pretty vocal up. My trick is I have a 1.5 to 1 master bus limiter or compressor on with a slow attack and a medium fast release. And what I like to do is I like to push my vocals and my melody instruments up high so that they're what's triggering the 2-bus compressor. And I find that for somebody like me that likes to mix very, very vocal up, that helps just match the band and vocal levels. I do have my vocals into a bus compressor as a group, but again, I just find that 2-bus, I can always see if I'm having a problem with anything, or if my vocals are too high, if they're pulling that compressor down too much. So it's a good kind of quality thing. Long story long, I found that with the master bus processor, I had to use substantially less EQ on everything. So the high frequency, I generally don't use a shelf on my high frequency, but I do have a pretty judicious notch around, around 8K that's basically knocking out, you're seeing the curve somewhere between 7 and 10 kind of thing. And then I'll let my 2-bus EQ with very steep, narrow notches take care of my problematic frequencies. Last night, I had 2 notches that were maybe a dB. So when I'm normally cutting -12, I'm cutting a dB. Just crazy. So the 2 vocals that we use it on, just again, I'm sure that you know this, but I use it on my lead vocal, which is downstage center right in front of the drum kit. And I use it on my drummer vocal. Both of them were on the same capsule. James, the lead singer, was on a Beta 57. Jamie was on a Beta 56. Same capsule, different mic body. And both of them got really clean. The vocals were really clean. I talked to James after the show, I'm like, how are your ears? When people got there, he's like, they were great. They were a little crispier than normal, but he's like, I didn't mind that. One of the interesting things about Spirit is we initially, when we started production rehearsals for our last tour with Crowded House, I originally had James on a Neumann KMS 105 because I thought, if we're carrying mics, let's put the singer on the best sounding thing. I worked in a club for 6 years or so that had wireless KMS 105s, and they were just amazing. Everything sounded good through that mic. And because of the high end in that microphone, and also, I mean, despite it being a super cardioid microphone, it just was too much high end. There was so much cymbal, there was so much sibilance and stage volume and all this stuff. And the amount of processing that I had to put on that microphone, just, why are you going to take a $600 microphone out when you can take a $100 microphone out? So my second favorite vocal microphone is a Beta 57. I will stand by that forever. So keeping James on a Beta 57 just was great. And normally I run a de-esser on him as an insert, even with the Beta 57, which I got rid of that de-esser last night and just had the primary source enhancer on there, and it was amazing. So top of the show, I found myself just thinking the mix was bright. I don't know if that was just my lack of ear fatigue because I was there for the first two bands, and just had earplugs in. As soon as I pulled my earplugs in, everything just went, it's very bright. So normally I would grab my 2-bus EQ, but I just found myself grabbing the depth knob on the 5045 and just basically took it from about 12 o'clock to about 2 o'clock, and it cleaned everything right up instantly with a knob turn. It was really cool. The other thing that was very interesting about that box last night was on smaller stages like that, I mix very delay heavy. That's just a stylistic thing that I like. But I throw a lot of delay lines, and I will generally have a tap delay happening at all times. Because of that, generally on smaller stages, the drums will bleed into the vocal mic. Now, again, I think it sounds kind of cool. I sort of lean into that. I've mixed in clubs for years. I've just, got sort of used to that kind of sound of, the vocal effects being, your vocal mic basically just being a mono affected crush mic for your drum kit. And I found last night that with the 5045, even on that stage, I lost all of the extraneous drum effects because they weren't hitting the vocal mic, because the 5045 is doing what it was supposed to do. It's just very cool. So here's what I'll tell you. As far as, at least at this point in November of 2023, happy Thanksgiving, by the way. I didn't wish you guys happy Thanksgiving at the beginning of this video. At least in November of 2023, all of the promo material that is out there on the 5045 are larger acts. What I will tell you is, if you happen to stumble upon this video and you're working in a club or you're working with a band like mine that is an opener, and Spirit will fill clubs and 200 to 300 cap rooms at this point in their career in November of 2023. Hopefully a year from now we're playing stadiums, but the reality is right now where they're at in their career is they're an opening band for larger acts on the same label as them, and they're playing clubs, and they're a heavy input band. There's 5 of them and there are 26 inputs. So, that's why they carry me, just because it's a lot of tech to deal with. And you have to spend less time with the PA with the 5045, and your vocals will get a lot cleaner quicker. And you can deal with things like not having a system engineer and, dealing with wherever they have to put you on that stage, because you're either the opening band or you're the headliner and there are multiple bands before you. That's where the 5045 shines. So what I was going to say earlier is, although it is not an inexpensive investment, it's out with larger tours. But I would urge you that if you're mixing a band like mine, or you're mixing in clubs, or, you're dealing with corporate events, you should really check the box out. Don't let the fact that the only promo material out there is larger acts think that that's preventative from you getting the box and trying it out. It made a really huge difference in my mix. Like, Neve didn't give this to me. They gave it to me as a demo, but I still have to buy it. And right now, I have to look at what my tax situation is like for the rest of the year. But honestly, I'm probably going to buy it. Right now, I'm 95% sure that I'm going to buy it. because it just did so much in the very, very quick time that I had it for the past week. Secondarily, again, street price on the 5045 is $1,900. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that that's, affordable, or, you should go right out and buy it, because it's going to, if you don't have microphones or any other kind of stuff, there are certainly other things that you can spend that $1,900 on. But what I will tell you is, if you're venturing out of the box, if plugins and that kind of thing in your live setup are cool, and you're trying to think about what is something that I can add to my rig, that I can mess with a physical knob, and just have something that will enhance the sound that is not available on my console. Unless you're in a Yamaha console, because the 5045 is a plugin. But for the rest of us, it's a really good box to have. And don't cheap on your outboard gear. The stuff that is based in your console is great. In the year of our Lord 2023, it's great. So if you're going to go to something that's out of the box, make sure that you're spending money on something that is actually going to improve the quality of your mix, the quality of your sound. And I think that the 5045 is really going to do that. So again, am I going to buy it? Probably. It's really cool. And it solves problems for me. That's the problem that I'm having with my mix, is getting my vocals up in small PAs with the amount of processing and the amount of inputs that we have to deal with. So in closing, I hope this helps. If you have any questions about it, again, please, I do love the discourse between the comment section thing that we have going back and forth. Please don't be scared to drop a comment below. I'll answer it the best that I can. Anyway, as always, happy Thanksgiving. Well, not as always, it's Thanksgiving now, but you get the idea. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for watching. Catch you on the next one. Bye.